Hey everybody, Jam Creates here. We got a special stream tonight. We're going to be talking about some cool stuff. But before we get to that, I want to wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day. And we're going to kick things off with a little fun little treat for you guys for St. Patty's. Okay, that's enough of that.
Gotta love Hornswoggle.
I don't know. I was just sitting around before and I was like, you know, it's St. Patrick's Day. I should do something special. What could I do for that would be like St. Patty's, like Hornswoggle. That'll work.
There you go.
I don't know. So anyway, welcome everybody. We are live, and I just want to say thank you to everybody who's here, anybody who's hanging out, and I want to welcome. I already got you guys in the chat. You guys can all see them already. We got RC's here. You guys, if you watch The Best Ever every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on this channel, you get to see RC and myself and a few others talking about all kinds of different stuff. Like last night, we talked about animated Batman stuff and had one of the most insane conversations you will ever see. You owe it to yourself to go back and watch that video. And then we also have as our special guest here tonight, Dojo Kun Comics is here to talk about his project. How you doing?
Great, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. So I see we got in the chat a couple people already. We got Fizz Chozo. Am I the only person here for Dojo Kun? No, you're not, because K Manifesto is here. What's up?
Awesome. Hey, Kay.
All right. So happy St. Patrick's Day, both you guys and everybody in the chat.
Thank you.
And I don't know if anyone's Irish. I'm actually part Irish. So I can play the Hornswoggle video and no one should be offended by that.
My grandmother's name is McCoy.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, like Beast. Or Bones.
Right.
Okay, so why don't we, before we get started, I just want to give RC, you want to just introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure. I'm a YouTuber who usually tries to focus on like pop culture stuff and news that goes on in Comicsgate. I occasionally will post like speed paints of my art, maybe do some little in-depth analysis of it, and yeah, that's pretty much just what my channel is. I pretty much just try and do like art and pop culture. So
all right, and then the whole point we're here is to meet Dojo Kun. So first, let's start. Why don't we get started with first and foremost, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, just to let people know who you are.
Okay, great. Thank you. So for my day job, I'm a certified fraud examiner, certified internal auditor, and an anti-money laundering specialist. I've been a comic book collector for 47 years now. I just revealed that to Jam Creates and RC. So I've been a collector for that long. I got interested in trying to publish comic books, I'd say in the early 2010s. And I wrote a script for one of the Marvel characters, and I scoured the Marvel site looking for how do I submit this, right? And it took forever to find it. It's just a little tiny paragraph buried in one of their website pages. And basically the answer is you don't. Basically what they say is you go get published somewhere and we'll find you. So I went to a website called ZWOL, ZWOL.org, and it brings writers, artists, colorers, letterers, flatters together. And there was an ad there that said they needed somebody who would help them write comic books and with their accounting. And I was like, have we met? So I sent them that sample script. I sent them my resume with all of my accounting and auditing background, and they hired me within an hour. So I worked for 2 small press companies before branching out on my own and starting Dojo Kun.
So when was that now?
So I branched out so I started working for them in 2014 and 2015.
Okay.
And I started my own in early 2018.
Okay, so you started your own in 2018. We're just getting into 2021, and you've already got like quite a bit of stuff to your name.
Yes. I'm new to CG, but I'm not new to publishing. This is my first round with a crowdfunder. So all of the comics I've published have been out of my own pocket. And, much to the chagrin of my wife. But at the same time, if I was a golfer, that's a pretty expensive hobby, and you don't get any return there. This could someday make me some money. So she's like, "Well, let's see it." so yeah, I'm in a whole bunch of Facebook groups where when I'm posting a bunch of my superheroes, and somebody from CG who I hadn't met said, "Brian, these characters are pretty cool, but I wouldn't post them out there on Facebook unless you like first put them in comic books." And I was like, well, I have. So I showed him my website. He's like, "Oh, this is great. Have you considered being a part of CG?" I hadn't heard of CG. So he gave me his opinion as to what CG represents. Sounded good to me. I went out to Wikipedia and read what they thought. Yeah, a little biased.
A little different, right?
but as a fraud examiner, I tend to look at things with a little bit of cynicism. So, I kind of figured, all right, I can see that they were, against the idea. So I did a little bit more research on my own and found that pretty much the tenets of CG are how I feel about things. This should just be escapist entertainment. Do not try to teach me something. Is diversity in comic books okay? Absolutely. A lot of my characters are people of color, people of different orientations. That's fine. But I'm not going to try to teach you anything with that.
Right.
If the character has blue eyes, good. If the character has brown skin, fine. But I'm not going to tell you about his blackness. That's not my place. Diversity is great in comics, but not to teach a lesson. So I was on board with CG. I started watching some streams in October, and been around ever since.
Nice. So let's get into what it is that you've got going here. Now, you've got a campaign. It's in pre-launch. So like you said, this is your first time doing a campaign. So maybe we'll go into a little just of the questions about that as well. But I just want to share the campaign. So let me just bring that up.
Okay.
Okay. So this right here, this is the pre-launch page. And this is your book. It's called The Siamese Trade Paperback by Dojo Kun Comics. And so this is 4 issues, all in collected as a trade.
Right.
So now, for people who don't know, when you do a crowdfunded campaign on Indiegogo, at least, they allow you to do an early sign-up round, basically, where people can just put their email addresses in if they think it sounds cool or looks cool. And it gives the creator a chance to kind of gauge the interest. And it also means that when the campaign does launch, you'll get the updates, and so you'll know you won't miss out on it. And then so it allows you to do a little like blurb about what it's about, share some artwork and that kind of stuff. And then, you just sign up. And so for anybody who doesn't know, I started a series on just helping people to understand, there's a lot of stuff out there for people who are trying to start crowdfunding, but I realize there's not a lot of stuff out there for people who've never backed a crowdfunder and don't know what to expect or how to do it or how to go about it. So I started doing a little series on that, and I'll be doing more of that in the future as well. But just I wanted to give people the understanding of what this is. This is you're not spending any money yet.
Right.
You're just signing up and saying, "Hey, this looks cool. I think I might want to check this out." So maybe you know what I did? Hold on. I did the age-old StreamYard mistake. I did not share audio.
Oh,
I was gonna play the video. So hold on.
One more thing while he's looking to share that audio. Also, too, with Indiegogo, there's an opportunity to when you give the email to the creator, they have an opportunity to do something exclusive for you to incentivize you to give the email. So, for example, on my campaign, if you sign up pre-launch. And then later back the book, you'll get an exclusive postcard print for having given me your email address. So once it launches, that'll no longer be available.
Oh, that's cool. So it's a little something. A lot of people will do that. It's like they'll give away a print maybe or a card or something for anyone who has signed up for the mailing list. It's another incentive. All right, now can we do this right this time?
Fingers crossed.
All right. So how long is the video, by the way?
Just about 1.5 to 2 minutes. Okay. I had it professionally done by Red Gaze.
Oh, nice. He does good work.
He does.
All right. So let's check out the video. Can you guys hear it?
Yes.
Yep.
Do you want to full screen
Okay.
it?
Yeah.
From Dojo Kun Comics comes Siamese, the story of two Chinese-American college graduates whose deviation gene make them extraordinary enough to become superheroines. This trade paperback combines the 4-issue Siamese miniseries previously published by Dojo Kun Comics. As our ladies discover their newfound power, we'll be introduced to other Dojo Kun Comics characters such as the Countryman, Breathtaker, Brickhouse, the Scarlet Archer, and Psionica. Dojo Kun Comics has released over a dozen comics so far. You can pledge with confidence knowing that obligations will be fulfilled. Superheroes are coming back. Don't miss out on Siamese.
Oh, gratuitous butt shot at the end there.
I wouldn't say gratuitous.
Well, there's nothing wrong with it. I didn't mean that as a negative. That's a cool logo. I like that.
Thank you.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay, so let's get back here. Okay, so that is look, K Manifesto. You're not an official streamer until you forget the share audio option. You got that right. Well, like I said, I'm part of the club now.
That's right.
Okay, so anyway, this was the nice thing about this for anybody who's considering is that these books are done.
Yes, they are.
These books are completely done. So this is a trade. Now, where and how were they published before when they were floppies? Like, where were they?
They were available originally on Amazon, and then Amazon's kind of clunky to work with, so I switched it over to Indie Planet, which they will provide print to order. So if you were to go to my website and click on the covers, which we'll take a look at in a little while here, you can do a print to order of any of my comics. So there's no print run sitting in a box someplace. Now, of course, that will be different for this crowdfunding campaign. I'll have the trade paperbacks I'll fulfill from home and things like that. And there's going to be the covers that you saw there that were examples of the first 4 issues of Siamese. Those will be collected, but the cover of the trade paperback is going to be very different. In fact, there's going to be a regular cover by Gilbert Monsanto and 5 variants. One of those variants is going to be a limited edition hardcover by the Barton brothers.
Oh, wow.
So, and there's other great artists who did some of the covers, which hopefully I'll come back on your show once we launch and we can show those covers and who the artists were and things like that. So that'll be a great feature to talk about then. The limited edition will have 50 available in the tier that's just that hardcover, and then there will be another 50 available when you bid the largest tier, which has all of the variants and a single copy of all of the comics that Dojo Kun has published previously.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, you'll get all 12 of the comics that we've published, plus all 6 of the comics in this campaign.
So now, is there like a plan with the other books? Now, how many? Like, I know you've said you've published 12. They're not all Siamese.
That's right.
So is the idea maybe down the road to maybe crowdfund some of those other characters as well, or?
Yeah, I think that this is a great methodology or a strategy to use the crowdfunding so that I can get these published books out there at a better rate, because it's kind of slow when you're doing it out of your own pocket.
Sure.
The Siamese miniseries leads into another miniseries called Deanna Hammer of the Angels. So most of my comics are in a connected superhero universe. So Deanna Hammer of the Angels will also be 4 issues, and number 1 is almost complete. So I'll probably crowdfund that after all of this is fulfilled. I subscribe now to the idea that you should be either complete or very close to it when you launch your campaign, so that people can be confident that you're going to fulfill, within a reasonable amount of time. They don't want to spend their money and then someday go, did I back that? Because I still don't have it.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah. I've got a few that I'm still waiting for that,
Yep.
it'd be nice to have. So Deanna's underway. Number 1 is almost complete. And then at the end of Deanna's 4-issue miniseries, there's going to be a team book called Trident's New Alliance. And I've got about 7 or 8 scripts written for that one. So I'm about 7 or 8 years out as far as what I've written. So I'm in this for the long haul, and I've also been in it for a while. So
Right.
This publishing company, it's got legs now, and hopefully, it will continue much, with the support of people who think it's cool.
So let's get into Siamese itself.
Okay.
The first thing, I have to be honest, the first thing I think, like when I hear Siamese, and I know this is not the correct terminology anymore, but the first thing I think of is, holy crap, is this a conjoined superhero twin?
Right. No, this is more like the Disney, we are Siamese.
Yes.
That was the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's those two things that come to mind. It's either the cats from Lady and the Tramp, or the idea that they are like superheroes that are conjoined twins or somehow fighting crime.
Wow, that would be interesting. There was actually a super villain in Amazing Spider-Man that was conjoined twins. They were actually they were also a little people, because it was 2 of them. They were called Fusion. Boy, it was during John Romita Jr.'s run on Amazing Spider-Man. So that's going way back. But yeah,
so
they
were conjoined twin little people.
Yes. And they had nuclear powers. So they were going all in on that one.
and people say that comics were never diverse. Like, for real, it doesn't get more diverse than that. I could pretty much guarantee that is the only conjoined twin little person villain in the history of comics, probably.
I've never seen another.
So anyway, Siamese. Now, are they twins or are they sisters? Or
they are twins.
They are twins.
The one with the white tail is the older of the 2 by 10 minutes. She's the more mature. She sort of mothers the other one. Their parents, you'll find out soon in the series, that they lost their parents, so they're on their own. The one with the white tail sort of mothers the other one a bit, and the one with the black tail is kind of wild. She's like YOLO, and she'll just jump into battle, and I would also say she's the more promiscuous of the 2.
Okay.
So you'll note that on the individual comics, the mature audience's label is on there, and that's because there's violence, and that's true in most comics, but there's also language and there's some nudity.
Mm-hmm.
So mature audiences, keep that in mind.
So what as far as the Siamese, I want to call them the Siamese twins, which has a different meaning.
Right.
But Siamese, do they have different names? Do they go like different code names, or
no?
Like...
They both go by Siamese, and in fact, they refer to individually. They refer to themselves in the plural.
Oh,
so if she's talking about herself, she says we, and if she's talking about her and her sister, she says we.
That's interesting.
So I'm going to be.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm going to be exploring a little bit of the bond that most twins are said to have.
That's interesting. So now, what kind of abilities, powers, whatnot do they have?
Their deviation gene kicks in under duress or under severe stress, and you'll see the origin in the trade paperback. They have agility, super balance, if you want to call it super. They've got claws, and their tails are actually prehensile.
So are the tails actually, like, do they have the tails even when they're not in costume?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So yeah, the tails are a part of them. And you may have seen the cover go by on the trailer where they looked quite a bit more ferocious than they do in their costume. And that's because in that instance, they become werecats.
Oh.
So, and that's not intentional on their part. So that's them having a bad day. But you may have noticed that there was a guy underneath them having a worse day.
So, so this is going to be the introduction to your universe.
Yes.
It's
a great starting off point
as a whole. So this is really like. So were these the first books that you had published on your own?
Yes, it is.
They were. Okay. So
Yep.
this was what started it all for you.
Exactly. I thought that would be a great opportunity for me to begin my community involvement with CG, is to offer these 4 issues in one trade paperback volume, and then go from there, building my superhero universe. I noticed that there was a bit of a dearth of superheroes in CG. Now there's a lot of people who have noticed the same, so you'll be seeing some other universes popping up as well. Some notable in CG that I just can't wait to get my hands on, because they look fantastic. But I'm not here to show them. So if you'll permit me, I could share my my website, and I can show you the 12 comic books that are from Dojo Kun Comics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let me
bring
go
that up. We
over
got to go
there.
through our little warp there. Okay, there we go.
So as you can see here, the first 4 issues I published were Siamese. Other superheroes will also be introduced, like Red Gaze mentioned in the trailer. This is Breathtaker. She appears first in Siamese number 2. Brickhouse is they have the old comic trope where they first have a misunderstanding and they have to battle him for a while before they realize they're on the same side.
Gotcha.
The Scarlet Archer will appear in number 3. The Countryman and Psionica also appear in these issues. And then, like I said, that leads into this one down here, Deanna, Hammer of the Angels. That's comics in development, like it says here. So issue number 1 is almost done, and that's right here. And then it will eventually go into Trident's New Alliance, this team book here. For those of you who are observant, you'll see that there's 11 members. 8 of them are women. So Trident's New Alliance, TNA. Just saying. just saying. Okay, so also in the connected universe, Toro Tales. Now the Toro is the stone lantern you see in my logo, the Dojo Kun's logo. That's the stone lantern. That's Japanese. And this is an anthology book. So this one in particular, number 1, has 5 different stories in it. And so Sparrow, H2O, Lone Shark, Bot 42. And that one's just a 22-page comic book, is available now. But the second issue of Toro Tales, also in development, I'd say that one's about, let's be honest, about 60% done. And that one's over 100 pages.
Oh, wow.
That's got 12 short stories in it.
So now the one that you said it's available, that's on Indie Planet?
Yes. If you go to my website, though, and click on it here, see how it becomes a hand? It'll take you directly to purchasing that on Indie Planet.
Oh, so what is the website for you? What is your website?
Oh, my website is dojokuncomics.wixsite, wixsite.com/Dojo Kun Comics.
Okay.
It's kind of long. It's one of those free sites. So this is me. I built all of this.
Gotcha.
So Night Miss and the Scarlet Archer is my homage to back in the day when they would combine like Iron Man and Submariner in the same book, but they'd each have their own story. So that's true of these 2. This one here, Alliances, starring Breathtaker and Sovereign. This is my homage to like Brave and the Bold, Marvel 2-in-1, DC Comics Presents, and Marvel Team Up.
Okay.
So Breathtaker will be the host of that comic, if you will, and she'll have a rotating guest star. And if you want a better picture of Breathtaker, this is her right here. She's quite the Breathtaker.
Now I understand the name.
Okay. To see pictures of all the heroes and villains in my comics, though, this is my Dojo Kun Comics annual compendium. So this is my homage, like, to the Who's Who, or the official handbook of the Marvel Universe. So this is over 100 characters that I'd created over the years. That it has their stats, their origin, their history, and their power set. and a full body picture of them by various artists.
So now you've been, I mean, obviously, like I said, you started a couple of years ago publishing on your own. You've done a lot of work already. And so I'm curious, what, like, when did you start? Because I'm sure you started coming up with these ideas long before you actually got them into comic book form. So I'm just curious, like, how many of these characters have been with you for years and years and years before this?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. So having been a comic book collector for 47 years, I was with DC and Marvel in the 80s when I thought they were the very best in my opinion. So it was at that point where I started thinking about, hey, what if so and so could do this, or what if they had a character that could do that? So I started, making a record of those and drawing them, and as a kid would do with crayon and stuff like that. But yeah, now I have professionals doing it, but with my mind. and and some of them are based, I'll be honest with you, I'm also a singer, and I was a professional disc jockey for a while.
Oh, wow.
So you'll find that a lot of my either the titles inside the comic book or some of the characters have some kind of adjacency to songs or music, rock stars or something that I've liked through the years. And I say that because, for example, this one over here, can you see me circling her in the red costume? Her name is Sparrow. And so that harkens back to Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young's Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, where they ask, "How can you catch the sparrow?" She is, I guess the word would be magically or through sorcery, uncatchable.
Oh, okay.
So you've got like Eunice the Untouchable in the X-Men. You've got Blob the Unmovable, Juggernaut the Unstoppable. Well, Sparrow is the uncatchable.
That's got to be kind of tough to write at times.
It's got to be tricky because, all right, so have I written myself into a corner? Can she be stopped or defeated? So I've got to be clever with that. Just like the writers used to have to be for Superman to somehow trick Mixisplitlick or whatever how you say his name into saying his name backwards. So you've got to try to be pretty clever there if you can. One other book that's in the connected universe is this I Am Become Death. It's a space opera with a significant twist at the end. I don't want to give it away, obviously, because then it wouldn't be a twist anymore. But this one here is just 12 pages. It was written as a prose novella by Nicholas Prontka, and then I wrote it into comic book form. But in order to sell on Indie Planet, you have to have a minimum of 22 pages. So what I did for the remainder of the pages was I put in a pinup gallery of Breathtaker.
Oh,
that's a smart idea.
Yeah, so if you want to see some great art with Breathtaker in it, plus this neat little short story space opera, which eventually will have a connection to the superhero universe, pick up I Am Become Death. Now, The Loved Ones, this is the first printing and second printing. We're calling it second printing because the concept came from David Whalen, and then I wrote the comic. And then he did the art and lettering. It's a black and white comic. It's 100 pages and more. It stars the children of your classic movie monsters. So there's a wolf boy, a vampire boy, a witch girl, and the son of Frankenstein, and they go on an adventure. Now, if you come to this website and you click on this one, you're purchasing it from Indie Planet, and Dojo Kun Comics gets the revenue. If you click on this one, David Whalen, his comic book company, Correct Handed Publications, gets the revenue. We both enjoyed working together and had so much fun writing this. You know what? Completely, we support one another. So whichever one you click makes us happy. We just want you to enjoy the story. The Mad King is not part of the connected universe. It's a 3-issue miniseries. Obviously, only 2 of them are out right now. The third one's in publication. David did the cover of this one. The one who did Loved Ones also did the cover of Mad King #1. Annette Bell did the cover of #2. And the significant thing about this one, there's 2 significant things. One is that every panel inside is a painting by Annette Bell.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's not drawn, inked, and colored. It's painted. So that's kind of cool. And the second significant thing is the story here is what happens when a king is so disenchanted with his kingdom and bored that he takes up a hobby, sneaks out at night, and becomes a serial killer.
Oh, jeez.
Thus, the Mad King.
Wow, that had to take forever to paint every panel of every page.
It's kind of a slow go, yeah, but she does, she does take some shortcuts. Not every panel is super detailed in the background, but I gotta tell you what, I love it. I think it's neat. It's got its own style, and I think she does a great job.
Yeah, that just sounds incredible.
Now down
The amount of
here,
dedication with that is like holy mackerel.
right? Yeah, she's and this is her first comic book too that she's worked on, so this is kind of a departure for her. So I've already talked about these three. There's one more in this coming soon section called the Maygun War. I'm working with Arias Hernandez from the Philippines on this one. Maygun War is Tagalog, the language of the Philippines, for gang war. And he has written and published this in the Philippines. He's got like 64 issues done. And he's come to Dojo Kun asking if we would publish them under his banner. And, at first I was like, well, I do have some creator owns. I'm working with other creators, like on this one here, where it was Nicholas that wrote it, and David came up with the concept here. I was kind of reluctant, though. I said, well, send me some art and let me see. Oh, is this your art? Yes. Okay. Yep, we'll do it. Because Arias, let me go up here so you can see an even better picture of it. Arias, oh, did I pass it? I'm sorry. Yes. He is a phenomenal artist. He is a former Disney animator. He worked on Tarzan, he worked on Kim Possible, and he worked on The Lion King with Disney.
Oh, nice. I love Kim Possible, by the way.
Now, I'm sure you understand, all of you, that there are probably dozens, if not 100 or more animators on any of those movies, but
Sure.
At least he was one of them. And he's got his own, like a studio where he teaches kids who've graduated college or school who want to become artists. So he's got like his own artist studio there.
Oh, wow.
And so right now he and his girlfriend are working on this comic. He's drawn issues 1 through 5, and she's starting to color them. And he's sending over the scripts to me in the best translation of English that he can, muster. And then I'm, as an editor, I'm going through and correcting grammar, punctuation, things like that for the English language. I don't speak Tagalog, so he's doing his best. I'm doing my best. I know a couple of words, but I think this is a neat collaboration. I love having staff from around the world.
I think, yeah, that's really cool, especially just the idea of, this is someone who you said that he's made a ridiculous amount of books already.
Yeah.
And this is somebody whose work would probably never see the light of day anywhere else unless someone was going to take that on and do the, fix the translation, make sure it makes sense and all that kind of stuff, and then actually take on, promoting and printing and everything else in a different country. So that's really cool.
He, Indiegogo doesn't allow for crowdfunding in some countries, and unfortunately for him, the Philippines is one of them. So I'm going to do the crowdfunding for him. We're going to do these in trade paperbacks, so it's not going to be 64 different issues. I think we're going to combine maybe 3 or 4 at a time, depending on how things work out. And he's going to get the vast majority of the return, obviously, because it's his book.
Right. No, but that's really cool, because that's a way to get stuff that, like I said, normally wouldn't get here, to get it here. That's something it's funny because I've actually been trying, and it's been, part of it obviously is the language is an issue, but I've been trying since I started Indie Comics Underground. One of the things I do on that site is obviously I promote crowdfunded comics and indie comics. And one of the other things I do is I talk about web comics and I talk about manga. I do that more of the manga stuff on my YouTube channel. Like, although I haven't done it in a while, but I read a ton of manga. Okay. And one of the things that I've always wanted to do is to get a hold of some really like indie. I don't even know if the scene exists, to be honest with you. I've tried to find people who could hook me up with figuring out what the indie manga scene looks like in Japan.
Oh,
because I'm just curious to know, honestly. Like, more than anything, I really would just love to know what's out. I know there's a lot of I know fan comics are a big thing there. Mm-hmm. And they're actually allowed. What they do is there's conventions and stuff that there's just tables upon tables of people selling their fan comics of existing properties. So it might be you might make a fan comic for Sailor Moon, or you might make a fan comic of My Hero Academia, or whatever it is.
Akira.
Yeah, look, whatever you decide to choose, and people are the manga companies are cool with it because they're not really like taking any business away from them, and they do have to do it in a different format most of the time. So they use I forget which one it is. I think they use the A4 paper, and I think the pros use the B6 paper, or it's vice versa. I forget what it is. It's one of those ways.
Okay.
But it's a little bit of a different size. They call them like dojinshi, I think they're called. And they're essentially fan comics. What I want to know is if anyone is making like just straight up original indie comics the way we've got people over here making indie comics. I'm really curious if there's an indie manga scene over there, and if there is, how can we get that here? How can we bring some of that? How can we bring some of that stuff over here? Because I bet some of it is really good. I'm sure some of it is awful, but some of it is probably really good. And I would love to see it.
Yeah.
I would love to see it come over here. So the fact that you're doing that with an artist from the Philippines, because I'm sure there's a manga scene in the Philippines as well.
Oh, I'd imagine so. Yeah.
So that's really cool to have that come over here. That's why I think that's just a really neat thing that you were able to work that out with him. That's really, I like
thanks.
that.
It's going to be some fun, I think.
And then because he's made 64 books, like you said, you can package them together as trades, and people get like a nice chunk of story for their money.
Right. This one here, let me scroll down just a little bit here. This is a trilogy of novels by Janice Hardy. It's sort of geared toward young adults. If I was going to compare it to something that maybe you've already read, I'd say maybe Divergent or The Hunger Games. But this trilogy of novels is award-winning, and my wife read these books and said, I know it's young adult, Brian, but I think you might like them. So I read them, and wow, did I like them. And in fact, I liked them so much, I mentioned to my friend Steve, who said, do you want to talk to her? I work with her husband.
Oh.
I'm like, are you kidding? So I talked to Janice and I said, hey, would you be willing to allow me to adapt this into a comic book graphic novel? And she was excited to let that happen. So we are working on The Shifter, which is the first of the novels. You can see I've got art from Zilson Costa on here. He's an artist from Brazil. I think he does a fantastic job. The line art is great. I've got H.G. Tobalina is my colorist from Spain, and then Matthias Zanetti from Argentina will be my letterer, and they are right down here. So I've got a very international staff. I work with people from around the world. I have a colorist letterer team from Russia. It's a married couple. I've got a guy from New Zealand who is the co-creator of Siamese. This is the canvas print that he did right here. That'll be part of the campaign once that launches. So this here is at the top of my website is an example of some of the things that will be available once my campaign launches. So I've got some chibi stickers you can see. Mm-hmm. I have a metal keychain. This is a wall poster here with Siamese and Deanna, Hammer of the Angels. As you can see, they're helping her with her modesty a little bit. There's a poker chip that will be available. This is a challenge coin that'll be one of the stretch goals. This, however, is just an example of some of the things that will be available. There's much more.
Wow, man, you've got so many things, so many balls in the air, so many things.
And one more crowdfunder I'm going to have this year, if you could believe it, is a trading card set. This here is still in the works. I'm thinking it'll be a 9-card set with an exclusive card and then a stretch goal of these 2 supporting cast cards. So all told, if everything works out, you'll have 12 cards from this first set.
Wow. Simon on 7 said, Dojo Kun would really suffer from a big internet blackout.
Wow, bite your tongue, sir.
Well, with so many people all over the world, like the only way, obviously, you're communicating with them is via the internet.
That's correct. Yeah, and a lot of their work comes to me only that way. Although Zilson does his work traditionally, he actually draws on paper and then scans it in. He has to send it to me as a TIFF file. So yeah, okay. He's correct. That would be awful to me if somebody had that mythological EMP that everybody always talks about. I would hunt them down.
You would feel the wrath of Dojo Kun Comics.
That's right. Oh,
So-
hey, I'm glad you said that. If you don't mind, I'd also like to tell you where did I get the name Dojo Kun Comics?
I was just about to ask.
Oh. Well, thank you. I'm glad you asked. In in college, I started in Shotokan Karate, and the Dojo Kun are the 5 rules of the karate dojo. I'll give them to you in English. It's seek perfection of character, endeavor, be faithful, respect others, and avoid violent behavior. So for those 5 rules, those are, and when you mention them in Japanese, the interesting thing about that is all 5 of them start with the word hitotsu, which means first. So they say first, seek perfection of character, first, endeavor. And the reason I say that for all 5 is they're trying to impress upon you that they're all of equal importance.
Right. So how long did you study for?
Oh, I still am.
You still? Okay.
Yep. So as you can tell by looking at me and the fact that I collect comics for 47 years, I've been at it for a couple of days. But one fun thing is early in my training, I learned the Dojo Kun in Japanese long before it was necessary in order to progress in my belt. And my sensei years later revealed to me that, in fact, it was the fact that I learned them way before I needed to that helped me actually earn that belt.
Really?
The belt that I was testing for at that time, I didn't need to know him by that point. So when he asked me for the Dojo Kun, I asked him, "Do you want it in Japanese or English?" He's like, "Oh yeah, smartass. All right, Japanese." So I said it in Japanese, and although he's not Japanese, so he looked at Miho Higashi, who was sitting next to him, and said, just sort of looked at her for approval. And when she kind of shrugged and went, "Yeah, not bad," he's like, "Okay." It was close. I mean, obviously I said it with a Gaijin accent, so it wasn't perfect Japanese, but at least I learned them.
Hey, listen. Blue Samurai said nice rules. They are actually.
Yeah. And and the last one, a lot of people ask me, it's avoid violent behavior. You're learning to fight. Why would that be one of the? Well, there's an old saying that says, better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. So it's great to know how to fight and never need to.
Yep.
Than need it and not know how.
Absolutely. Listen, that was I remember I'm old enough to remember when Ronald Reagan was still campaigning for president, probably for his second term. Yeah. But I remember there was literally this commercial that they used to air where they had a bear, and obviously it was symbolic of Russia at the time, because we were all afraid of the Russians back then. Right. And it was
war.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole story was like there's this. It was like this, just basically just a narrator talking about this bear and saying how strong the bear is, and if you run into this bear, wouldn't it be smart to be as strong, or wouldn't it be good to be as strong as the bear? Like
supporting a military strength is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Subtly, of course.
Yes,
subtly.
yes. But yeah, it's the same basic concept.
Right.
And ironically, for some reason, that has stuck with me all these years. I don't know why, but
effective advertising. That's what that was.
Yeah. Listen, I remember one time, this is completely off topic, but I remember one time I was watching the A-Team, which I was wont to do back in the day. And during an episode of the A-Team, just, a normal episode, whatever, I don't remember what night it was on. And, the whole family, we're all there watching the A-Team because, this was the 80s. We had one TV and we were all watching it. And
right.
We're watching the A-Team. They go to commercial, and it's just like any other commercial, whatever. And then a commercial started, and it was a campaign commercial. And then the campaign commercial just kept going. And I swear to God, I don't know how long it actually went for. This was a long time ago. But to me, it felt like that campaign commercial went on for about 45 minutes.
Oh.
And legitimately, I know it was longer. Like, it probably went on for a good, 15 minutes, legit. And then they just came back to the show like nothing ever happened. And I was just dumbfounded. But that this commercial break just went on and on and on and on.
So do you mean that it was in a loop, or did it actually just
No, it
continue
was.
to talk about new?
Yeah, it was just one long ass commercial.
Wow. Okay.
It's a
It was
presidential infomercial.
That's crazy.
It was bizarre. I could never it was just one of the strangest things I've ever seen. The only and of course as a kid, all I cared about was when are we going to get back to Mr. T? Like, come on.
Right.
Like I don't care about this stuff. I want to get back to the A team shooting 80,000 rounds and never hitting anyone.
Exactly.
But yeah, that was complete sidetrack, but I do that from time to time. You just have to bear with
Hey,
me.
dude, it's your show.
But so let's get back to, because the right now we're heading towards Siamese. So you've got the pre-launch going now. When are you thinking about the actual launch?
The actual launch will occur late at night on April 5th, which is a Monday night on Michael Bancroft's show, Late Night with Comicsgate.
Oh, nice. Nice. So you get the launch night Bancroft bump. That's nice.
That's right. I saw him launch Star Circuit, and I'm like, I want that.
I think everybody wants that,
man.
Because Joe funded in an hour and a half.
Yeah, exactly. I think everybody wants that.
Like, that is a good thing to emulate right there.
Absolutely. No, he listen, he's got a great book. That book looks amazing.
It does. Yep.
And Bancroft's a great guy. I love Bancroft streams. So
that was the stream I first started with, and
okay.
I think maybe I've missed one or two since October.
Oh wow.
Yep, I'm always there.
Yeah, I've seen your name.
Yep.
Because I pretty much watch them all too. So
okay. Good to have you there.
Oh, Blue said, nice. Good to see you get plucked from the chat onto the show. Well, that's one thing. It's one thing just to get into that aspect of this whole crowdfunding thing. When you decided to crowdfund, now I know you said you kind of got into Comicsgate around October or so,
right?
Did you? Simon Hunt said you have to wear a blouse.
Getting Bancroft's good graces.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll see if Dee would let me do that. I'm thinking she's going to be like, "Hey, no."
So when you first got into and you started watching the streams and all that kind of stuff, did you kind of start to formulate in your head like how your strategy was going to be for launching the campaign? Like, did you start to think to yourself like, I need to get out there, I need to be part of the chats, I need to be a part of these streams at some point,
Oh, that's a great question. Originally, no, I did not know what strategies were good. I didn't know that this pre-launch sign-up was a good idea. I've gotten some fantastic encouragement and support from people like Bancroft, like Rob Arnold, like Leroy. I was ready to start my campaign to launch it the night before my birthday. I was scheduled to go on Michael Bancroft's show, and he said, "Have you been in pre-launch sign-up?" And I said, "No." He's like, "Listen, let me tell you a couple of things." So we had a long talk, and he said, it's kind of cool that people know who you are, and maybe you're a likable guy. He's like, "I don't want to tell you are," but he said, but another thing you want to do is make sure that they know your book is worth looking at. You can't just go on, yeah, he's kind of a nice guy. He said, what you really ought to do is show them that it's also worth backing, so that they've got both of those in their back pocket, and say, I'm looking forward to this book and I'd really like to back him. So when you launch, they've got both of those things encouraging them to do that. So he's right. And I got some other suggestions as far as, don't just launch them as individual floppies. A trade paperback in this instance would work better. So this community has been nothing but supportive and welcoming. I can't say enough about it. It's been fun to be a part of it so far. I can't wait to continue.
So that brings up an interesting idea. Now, were you considering doing them as floppies, or did you always have the trade in mind?
No, I actually considered doing them as floppies with new covers way back in October and November.
So that's an interesting thing, because there's always this constant battle. I feel like when it comes to the crowdfunding campaigns and what people are doing. There's this idea of, price is always an issue,
Mhm.
and quantity of what you're getting is always an issue, and so it's got to be kind of a difficult decision to make to finally like come down and say, okay, this is how much, how many pages I'm going to give, and this is what I'm going to ask for it, and to really hammer those down and make those decisions, because you're putting yourself out there, you're taking a chance. I mean, anytime someone crowdfunds, they're taking a risk,
Yes.
of obviously failing. Now, the nice thing about crowdfunding is, even if you do fail, you can always come back and try it again and learn your lessons and fix things, and
That's right.
do it a different way, which is nice. Of course, nobody wants to fail. I mean,
Yeah, I was gonna say, but we're not going to do that, right?
no, of course not, of course not. But that's the thing. Like, so when you're making those decisions, like, definitely, there's so many different things that weigh into those decisions, and I constantly see stream upon stream upon stream of discussion, and if you want to call it like navel gazing, about what to do and how to do it.
Right.
So how did you eventually come to the decisions that you did come to? And I'm not going to hold you to anything now, as far as I'm not going to ask you about price or anything like that, because you haven't
Okay.
launched yet. So I'm not going to even go there
Right.
yet. But, how did you make those decisions? Or are you still like kind of kicking around things?
Uh, I think that I've made the decisions, but I'm still watching very closely the other campaigns that are launching, those that get funded or not, and I'm trying to see what works, what doesn't. Certainly, there are more than one way to skin a cat. Siamese. So, I'm looking for what I think will be a good mix for my book, and what perks that I'd like to offer. There's been a discussion lately about digital versus physical. Do you even want to bother having a digital tier? My answer is yes, I do. But I personally would prefer to have the physical book in my hand. I understand
Sure.
some people would like to have it more portable or don't want to deal with shipping. So I totally get that. But I have made a decision on price, and that's based on the fact that this is going to be over 100 pages. It's going to have 22 pages for each of the floppies that will be included, plus all of the covers, back covers, a section that has behind the scenes concept art, a fan art section, and a professional pinup art section. So
Oh, nice.
it's going to be chock full of stuff. And I've also decided what my goal will be. I wanted to set it at a reasonable goal that people aren't going to look at the number and say, "Oh, he's never going to get to that. I won't bother." And on the other hand, though, I don't want to pick something very, very small, such that if I don't get much more than that, and I'm on the hook to publish this, you're right. This book is done. The art is done and all that, but I'd really like to recoup the expenses and pay for some of all these other things that you saw on my site.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So
Listen,
I'd really like this to be, a good launching point for me.
Right. One thing that I will never, ever, ever, ever get mad at a creator for, and I don't understand the mindset behind this. I will never get mad at a creator making more money than they need and making a profit. That's the whole point.
Mhm.
Oh, sure. But I mean, I'll be perfectly honest with you. If this breaks even, I'll be happy with that too, because then it's paying for itself. And,
Right.
that would be great to go to my wife and tell her, look, I didn't actually spend a dime. Because,
Happy wife, happy life.
yes, thank you. Exactly.
But I mean, that's the thing. Like, you've got to, you have to make all these decisions, but at the same time, like, I laugh. Like, I know it's become just kind of like a meme at this point, but when you see the ones with like the campaigns with like the pie chart about like, no, I'm not going to make any money on this. I promise. I'm not like,
that
how
is
does that
kinda
make any
silly.
sense?
Yeah, you're right. I do hope to make money, but I
Yeah.
can also tell you that a lot of it will go into all the stuff you saw further down on my website.
Right. And honestly, that's kind of almost I think that's understood by most people, is that, whatever extra money you're making on this is just going to end up rolling over into the next project. And then from there into the next and into the next. And that's kind of the idea.
Yeah, I want to do this for a long time, folks.
Right. And as that happens, as people start to be able to do that, you get, you start the momentum going, and then you're able to create more and more and more. And that's the goal, right? Everybody wants more good comics, and that's hopefully what we're all creating. And that's the idea.
Exactly.
Blue Samurai has a good question. He asked, will the story, lettering, or art/colors be touched up for the trade paperback?
You know, I'm not going to do any remastering of these, and let me tell you exactly why. Number one, the artist on issues number 1 and 2 is a fine art portrait painter, and that's why he departed the comic. He got a commission to paint someone's son, and he said, I hate to do this to you, Dojo, but I got to move on. So, he's not around to fix anything or change anything back then. Issues 3 and 4 are done by Zilson Costa, the one you saw doing the shifter for me. And he's busy doing that. So I don't want to take any time away from that. I want him to work on that. Now, I can tell you this, though. In issue number 3, there was a character called the Urban Archer. He's on the cover there. He's the African-American gentleman on the bottom right of issue 3. That character belongs to another company that I used to work for. I can tell you that we parted ways. I don't want to talk about how or why, but what I did was I went to Zilson. I said, could you please draw in his place the Scarlet Archer, one of my own characters?
Okay.
So he went on those. I think there was 5 or 6 pages where Urban Archer was replaced with the Scarlet Archer. And then a couple of things were recolored and relettered to accommodate that.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Yeah.
I didn't want the owner of Urban Archer to come back and have any issues with the crowdfunding campaign.
Right. Yeah, well, I don't blame you. The last thing you need is some kind of headache of somebody coming out of the woodwork after the fact and
Yes.
demanding, a piece of the pie or whatever.
Exactly.
The pie that says you might actually make money.
That's the pie. I don't want a sliver with his name on it.
Exactly.
Or even a big chunk with his name on it.
Simonon says, do your math more than once. Make sure you have the most things covered, and especially watch out for the fulfillment part, i.e. shipping costs and things like tape, protecting materials, etc. And I know that's definitely, there's the hidden costs that come kind of later in the process, mailers and materials like that can definitely be something that catch, especially first time crowdfunders off guard.
Yes. I've been given some advice on that, but also as an auditor / fraud examiner, I also overanalyze a lot of things. So I definitely have looked into covering all of those costs, but I definitely appreciate any advice that someone wants to give. Absolutely.
And then, yeah, I mean, it's just, it's funny. Everybody's coming from a different place, so, you're coming from, you've got this auditing background. So clearly, like, you've got the eye for detail. You're able to, look at these things and figure them out from that regard, which is nice. That's a good thing to have. Not everybody has that, obviously. One thing I did want to touch on, you mentioned it before, you are going to have a digital tier. And
Yes.
And it's funny because I know a lot of people like this, the digital versus not having the digital is like this crazy war that goes on sometimes in these conversations. And part of me, I understand it, but at the same time, while yes, I would always rather have a physical book in my hand,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have a problem with reading digital comics either. I'll do both. I mean, like I said, I read a lot of manga, and the way I read that manga is digital. It's all digital.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't want to wait. So I don't buy the volumes. I have the subscription to like the Shonen Jump app, and it's $2 a month, and I can read all their stuff. It comes out basically day and date as it does in Japan, and I get every chapter as it goes. So I can just read them every week, just like everybody else, is doing with these books. And so the only way to do that is digital, because they don't even make a print version of Shonen Jump magazine in the US anymore. So it's all digital. That's really your only choice, unless you want to wait and buy the volumes later. So for me, digital is not really a big deal. Again, I would rather have a physical book in my hand, but I also understand, like, if you're somebody who lives overseas, like that overseas shipping is a nightmare. When you hear the prices that some of these people are paying in other countries, it's crazy. Like, I can't even like, I look at that and I'm just like, this is nuts. Like, could you imagine, like, the price for shipping the book oftentimes is more than the price of the book itself.
Right. There's a few people who are working on mitigating that. They're hoping to have fulfillment centers in various countries,
Right.
such that I would maybe perhaps have it printed here, send an entire box to them, and then they ship it out to, like, for example, the Australians.
Right.
So there's some folks looking at doing that, both here in the States to help distribute and overseas. So I'm watching closely to see that that happens, so that I can offer a lower shipping cost eventually.
I think at some point that will happen. I think there's enough of, especially like in CG, there is enough members in other countries
Yeah.
that I think at some point it just kind of has to happen, and it's just going to be a matter of who gets it done. And we'll see who it is who gets it done, and then once they get it done, they're going to have to make sure they actually do a good job of it, because if they don't, somebody else is going to step in and take over for them at some point.
Yep. That's democracy.
Yeah, and that's the way, that's the way it should be, honestly. I mean, that's a good thing. Like, and Simon mentioned, not to mention the taxes if the price goes beyond a certain amount. So that's where I see, like, the digital really, it does make sense if you're overseas somewhere, or honestly, even if you're just, if you're like me and you've got the Italian disease, Mafunzolo, you sometimes the digital is the better way to go.
Yeah, well, or
I
if
mentioned
you have,
I mentioned before, I'm half Irish. I'm also half Italian, so I can say those things.
no problem, paisan. Or you might also have the collector gene, like me. I have already backed over $800 worth of Indiegogo campaigns this year, just this year. So yeah, maybe digital is a good idea. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's funny because it gets to a point, I know for me, just in terms of financially, when all this started, when this all kicked off, I just backed everything because there wasn't that much.
Oh, right.
There wasn't that much at the time, so it was just like, yeah, Jawbreaker's backed, Cyberfrog backed, like everything. I was backing everything, just boom, 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 and it didn't matter. Then, things happened. People who follow the channel know, like, I lost my job. It happened. So obviously, like, I had to cut back on the spending.
Right.
And so for me, if there's a story, if there's a book, I really want to read the story. Like, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I want to see the art. I want to read the story. It's something it's like this craving. People don't necessarily understand the comic book addict,
Right.
like where you just you see a book and you're like, must read, must have, and so for me, like, that happens, and if the difference means that instead of backing let's say a $25 book with $10 at shipping, if I can get it for less money and get it digital, but I still get to read the story and enjoy the story and enjoy the art, then sometimes that's the way I'm gonna go, because that's what I can afford at that moment.
Sure.
And so I do think that's something. I also think there might be down the, I don't know, there's got to be like a happy solution for everyone, where it's kind of maybe the physical book comes out first, and then if there was a follow-up pipeline, I think that would help. In terms of, like, okay, we do all the physical books first, and then a follow-up where it's just the digital. It's almost like when a movie comes out in the theater, and then there's the home video release, and then the streaming release. Like, I don't know, something along those lines. If we could come somehow to figure that out, maybe, or as more people put out more books, maybe they will start putting out trades, and that'll make things better for people down the road. Because we've got now a few campaigns that are into book 3, book, they're in book 2, book 3. A lot of them are kind of in that range. There's a couple that are headed into book 4 territory, and it'll just keep going, because I don't see it slowing down or stopping anytime soon.
I feel like with books, like what I'm seeing and coming about is that a lot more people are going to be finishing or being very close to being finished with their comic books before they get them sent out. So I feel like that will probably make it much easier for people who are concerned about digital books being released before the actual physical ones. So if they have their books done, like Dojo, you said that you have Siamese done, and you're pretty much releasing already finished books.
Right.
So stuff like this would be, you can release the digital version at the same time as the print ones are going out.
Yes.
And I feel like that's something that's much less of a concern for something like your campaign, as opposed to something like someone who would be still working on the art like a couple months afterwards.
Agreed.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. Because, if you're still working on the book, obviously it's not going to be out there very quickly if you're still, and that's a reality for some people. I know a lot of people have this, I know a lot of people have this thought right now. It seems to be a very prevalent thing of the book needs to be done or almost done before you do your campaign. And honestly, yes, that is ideal. That, in an ideal world, absolutely. But the one thing people have to always remember is that crowdfunding was meant to be a way to help these books that otherwise wouldn't even be get made in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It pays for the book.
Oh yeah.
Now, some people have the income, they have the savings, they can put together and fund the creation of the book beforehand, and that's awesome. If you can do that, that's great. Or maybe it's someone who's doing the entire thing themselves. So it's only costing them time, which again, only time,
Yeah.
But not everyone has that luxury. So it's definitely, if the book is in progress and you've got something that you can see and you can kind of hold on to and just say, okay, I see where this is going. I like the way it looks so far. And as long as the creator is honest and upfront about it, about how far along they are, I don't really see that much of a problem. I mean, listen, I've got books that I am waiting. What year is it? And these are from people who genuinely have put out books in the past and they know how to make a book, but for some reason it's taken literally years. And then there's others who turn around a book like that. So it just, you never know who it is. I do like that, like Simon says, he said he doesn't mind a work in progress, and then he said, and even the delays, but patience has its limits. It definitely does.
Yeah.
I will agree with that. And one thing, I've seen a lot of creators do, and part of me understands it. I have this bad problem of I can always try to look. I always try to look at everything from every angle. And so
that's a bad problem.
Well,
No.
it sometimes it can be, because I feel like I'm making excuses for people when they don't even want to make excuses for themselves, and that's where it gets a little bit too much. That's my problem. But I completely lost my train of thought. You see the gray in the beard? It's there for a reason. But what I was going to say was, I understand, but what I do see, I see certain creators, they have their book, they have their crowdfunder, they do their thing, they make their goal, and then the delays start. And listen, I get it. Some delays are for legitimate reasons. And as long as a creator keeps you updated, I feel like I'm cool with that.
Right. Transparency is important.
Yeah, especially. I mean, there are some where it's really. There's one in particular, where one of the creators, the artist actually on the book, lost a child.
Oh.
And
wow.
When I saw the update, when that update came out, I was like, listen, I can't even imagine trying to think about drawing a comic at that moment. Take your time.
Exactly.
100% take your time. That I have complete understanding for. Now, if they're just not saying anything and they're not telling you anything, then there's a problem. But I also see a lot of them will lock refunds. The book is super late. It's been a really long time, and then they say, yeah, but there's no refunds allowed. And I find that kind of odd. You're telling me, you're not giving me updates. Your book is late. You're making excuses, but then you're also telling me that there's no way for me to get a refund on this book that you have not delivered yet. And honestly, even if everything is on the up and up, it just looks and makes you sound sketchy, and it's just gonna make me not want to back you in the future.
Yeah, the perception of being unethical can be difficult to overcome.
Yeah, it's tough. It's definitely tough. Oh, Simon, thank you for being here. We'll see you soon. Enjoy your movie.
Oh, hey, that's a very good point. There is a stream that I should have joined at 9:00.
That's okay. I gotta go anyway. So I was about to wrap it up anyway. So.
Okay.
So just one more time, I just want to remind everybody the book is called Siamese. It's in sign up right now. So you just go to Indiegogo. The link is in the description below. So you can just click on the link down below and it'll take you right there. You can sign up. It's not costing you anything just to get on the email list. I hope hopefully your email list is growing and growing every day. And then, when you absolutely, are ready to launch, I would love that. Obviously I know you're going to launch on Bancroft's stream.
Right.
And I totally understand that. But absolutely, I would love to have you on again, like, especially when the book comes out. We'll go through the whole campaign, talk about it. We'll hang out. We'll have a good time. And we'll just have some fun.
Thanks so much for having me on tonight. I appreciate it. And yes, I'll definitely get in touch to come back.
Definitely. Absolutely. Thanks so much for being here. It's Dojo Kun Comics. His book is The Siamese on Indiegogo. The link is right down below. And you know what? Since some people came in late and we've got a few people hanging out here, we're just going to say good night with one last little St. Patrick's Day treat.